Okay, I'm Don Leff. I'm a Korean veteran. I volunteered January of 1951. I went to basic training in San Antonio, Texas, and then from there I went to California for schooling. And from there I curled on that great big boat and went to Japan and spent a couple of days in Japan getting accessories for spending the winter in Korea, which included weapons and everything but boots. I couldn't get no inside boots, but anyway, spent the winter in Korea and it was cold, cold, cold. And the first base I was on over there was K6, which was getting too far away from action, so they moved us up and a lot closer, and that was in Chuncheon. Chuncheon was a famous name in Korea. I was going to Korea and I got to Japan. They said everybody was lined up, and they said people with an APO number, one number following this line, another one following this line, another one following this line. My line was pretty short. I thought, well, hell, I'm going to stay in Japan. And I was the ones that go to Korea, and then the rest of them were staying in Japan. But the only town, or the only thing I seen from the time I got over there until I got to where we was going to be stationed, the only building I seen that wasn't shot up was the University of Seoul. They didn't bother that for some reason.
Wow. So that was in South Korea. So they were already getting hit pretty good.
South Korea.
What'd you feel when you found out your line was going to Korea?
Well, you don't have any feelings, you know. It didn't bother. We flew to Ashia, southern tip of Japan, and then we got on an old C-47 to go to Korea. That's when I knew I was going to Korea. They issued guns. They give you your choice of what you wanted. And anyway, we made it over to Korea, all right, and got over there, and it had been raining for I don't know how long. This was in December, and the truck that come out to the airplane to meet us just hardly made it back to the tent where we was going to stay. And it was mud everywhere, but we made it. I had two brothers and a sister, and they had trouble feeding themselves, so let alone me. But I wasn't old enough to really to be into farming much, and I had two brothers. But the one brother, he had to go to the army. The other one stayed home. If there was two boys in the family, one farmers, one could stay home to farm because they needed food, you know, to eat. That's when all the farmers got together. They get one place and then they go to the next place and the next place till harvest was done. But my dad, he worked like I don't know what. The only way to make a living in those days is work, and it was all hand work. But it's all you knew. You know, everybody was alike. And so the people. And my oldest brother is the one that went. He'd been in an accident. He'd been hurt pretty bad, but he went and he couldn't. There's a lot of things he couldn't do, but he was a medic. He was in Europe in D-Day in Normandy. He wasn't there the day of the invasion, but he was there the next day. And they had an awful lot of wounded to take care of. And he worked 24 hours a day on some of those people. It's another sad story about war. I don't like war, and I don't think anybody does really, except the money, people make money at it. And I got a picture here of Marion. I had kept that on my footlocker for a long time there. Well, she was in high school, same time I was. And I hadn't even asked her for a date or anything. The one night after a basketball game, asked her if she'd like to go out on a little cruise, and yeah, she would. There were convertibles at the time, and it was a nice night, and it had the top down, and we just went out cruising around. Nothing serious. But it's turned into something serious later, and we got married. When I decided I was going to go into the military, I knew we was going to be separated for quite a while. And I asked her if she'd like to get married, and she said yes. And so we got together out there. Well, I took her out to Illinois. I come home on leave. Took her out to Illinois. Well, I was going nowhere where I was at. I wanted a future of some kind. I wanted to see the country. And I didn't think I was going to see Korea. I thought I was just going to see a lot of country. But that was a trip that I didn't expect to see and didn't really want to see.
So what's the name of the ship?
Man, and I don't know what the name of that one was I come home on. I used to know the name of it, but this here's the one that got me over there.
I bet the trip back home was much more relaxing than the trip going over.
Yeah. They held, if I'm not mistaken, they held around 3,000 to 4,000 people. And they had bunks 6 high, I don't know, Cappy and I and that other guy's name was Right. I was left and he was right. He was from Florida. I had never seen him anymore either. Taken from the air over Korea, North Korea. The only pictures I ever had of North Korea.
How was the view from the back of the plane?
Yeah.
What were you looking for?
Well, I don't quite remember whether we was dropping those leaflets or whether we was looking for gun displacements. They had some pretty accurate guns. They took a lot of our airplanes, made scrap out of them. They didn't bother much as long as one single airplane, but they get about 4 of them, and that's when they really started getting serious.
So what was your main job on the back of the plane when you're in the air?
Just looking, observing. See, these T-6s they could fly at 100 miles an hour, which is pretty slow for an airplane. And you can see a lot of things at 100 miles an hour that you can't see at 300 miles an hour. So they'd spot an airplane, a gun, and they would transfer the conversation over to the jet pilots, which was way overhead. And then when they found out that they recognized the call and where we was at, and then this pilot would fly low enough to fire some smoke grenades. And then they put out a lot of smoke, and he'd fire them down there where the gun was at. They wouldn't let those little airplanes have any guns. But anyway, he'd mark a target, and then the jets would come in and wipe it out. But it's pretty hard to see anything in those trees and jungles and whatever. And they camouflaged almost everything. But it was just another part of the war.
Did you feel like a sitting duck in the back of that plane? You really didn't have control because the guy was driving, but you were just observing.
Flying low like that over there, you know, and those jets were up there maybe 3,000 or 4,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So handguns couldn't harm them. So that's the way it worked.
Wow. But you weren't shot at.
We weren't. I don't know. Because there's a lot of airplanes we're shot at. There was hardly an airplane that went out that didn't have bullet holes in it when it come back. Or a lot of the bullet holes, they just never patched them up, period. Some of them they patched up, some of them they didn't.
And all of you that were flying these low missions, 100 feet off, that was the Mosquito group. Mm-hmm. That's what the Mosquito group did.
It was their mission. And there was 4 squadrons. Well, there was actually 3 flying squadrons and 1 maintenance squadron. They lost lots and lots of airplanes. And about midway or so, when I was there, they got new ones in. And they were a lot better airplanes. They took the first ones from the scrap, really, that were put in scrap yards, and then they got them back out, and they used them over there. But and then the newer ones, they were a little faster, a little more equipment in them and what have you. But
out of do you know of the Mosquito group? You said there was 400 of them members.
Yeah, 400 in that entire group.
Sounds like a pretty hairy mission, to fly that low. Is that something did everybody want to be in that Mosquito group? Was that? No.
I don't think anybody
wanted to.
That was just a joke because people believed in doing what they was told to do. And if you was told to take a crap, you go into the toilet. Most of the pilots were World War II. They recalled them.
Wow.
See, an officer is never really out of the military. They can call them back any day they want them. Told stories about World War II, because most of them were from World War II. In fact, a lot of the people stationed there was from World War II. And that's why we didn't get any rank, is because they had all the rank. We had master sergeants and tech sergeants and whatever running out the ears. We couldn't get no rank that way. Anyway, there isn't much rank in Korea.
How did they feel about being in Korea after being in World War II?
I don't know, but they were, when they got out after World War II, they had an option of going back and with getting their same rank or 1 rank higher. They did them a favor. But we had one particular guy that was a master sergeant, and went down there one day, and he was a major. And boy, he went up in a hurry. He says, "Well, I was a major in World War II, and then they made me a 7th master sergeant in Korea, and then now they gave me my rank back." So he was getting ready to go home and retire. We had a little light bomber come in one day. The light bomber was 2-engine jobs. He'd been on a bombing run to bomb something, I don't know what it was. Anyway, he had 3 bombs in there that stuck in the bomb rack and didn't come down. And he landed there and he taxied clear out to the end of the runway. There was a sand trap out there where an airplane could slow down and stop if they overshot the runway. Anyway, he stopped out there and got out of that airplane and took off running. But he had tried to drop them bombs. There's 3 of them, and so the rescue, the people went out to give him help, or rather, found out that he had those 3 bombs. Well, before they could use that airplane, they had to get rid of those bombs. And he was in a sand pit, close to real soft sand. And I just happened to be on duty that day, was taking care of people coming in and going in airplanes. And so I got called to go out there with 2 other guys, and we found out what was wrong. And those bombs were, the first one was kind of cockeyed in there, and the other 2 were above it. And you never, even the pilot didn't know how those things worked. I mean, if they was going to go off when they hit, or whether they were time bombs, or whatever they were, there were several different ways that they adjust them when they put them on the airplane. And so, rather than try to drop them, they'd only drop 2 or 3 feet. But they could go off if they were concussion bombs. And that would be the end of that story. But, so they got on the phone and they tried to call the base where this plane was from and see how those bombs were put on there. Well, they were no concussion bombs. They said they didn't use concussions. And they timed them to go off at certain, like if you're flying at 3,000 feet, they wanted them to go off at 500 feet, so they scattered a lot of metal out all over. And so we went ahead and dropped them. Tried that first one loose, and then the other 2 come down when he pulled the trigger on them. Nothing happened. But that was pretty terrifying to fool with a 200-pound bomb.
It never went off. Just another day in Korea.
Yeah, just another day. That was probably one of the most terrifying days. Trying to pry loose a bomb that you didn't know if it was going to go off or what. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this, have you ever seen that little round thing I got out there on the shelf? They call it, something they haul that stuff on their back. They load it up with hay or wood or something they can use. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a little boy that's got one of them on, and it's made out of wood. That one I got's made out of an old shell casing or whatever. But that's the first time I ever noticed that.
What's he hauling?
He got nothing on there, but it's bare. And it's made out of wood, some spare wood, I guess. Little Korean kid. Had a little girl that come around to this base right here. This was down there quite a ways. And she had lost her parents. Both of them. And she was a cute little thing. She just as happy as she could be. And she wanted something to eat. She didn't have no parents to feed her. People fed her just because she was a nice little girl. And she come around there and she want an orange or an apple or somebody that might have a candy bar or something like that. And they give it to her. You couldn't pass her by, guys.
She was all by herself.
Yeah, all by herself and hungry.
Wow. Like a stray dog,
Lovely.
yeah.
But every 2-3 days she'd show up. I knew there was pheasants there because I'd been out a ways and I got talking about them. And this one little boy, he talked really good English. I think he had parents that were half English. And he says, I know where the pheasants are. I said, well, if I could find a gun and some shells, we'll go out and get some. Oh, I'd like that. He just thought that was great. I finally found a shotgun and some shells, and we went out. This is the first place I was. We was a long way from anything there, but we went out and he showed me where the pheasants were, and they were there. You know, the pheasant was originated from Korea to the United States. That's where they got their start. And anyway, I got 3. I shot 3 of them, and they were like little bird dogs. They couldn't wait to go pick that pheasant up, you know. And then when I told them they could take them home, oh, I was their friend forever.
I bet.
Between that and the little girl, they come around all the time, and sometimes she'd have tears in her eyes. She couldn't talk English, but she could make out what she wanted. She wanted something to eat. And then I found out later both of her parents had been killed. And I kept telling the other guys, I said, this little girl can come over here and go around to you guys and you give her something. Take a bag and each one give her something. And so we started doing that. Once in a while she got an apple or something like that, or sardines or just about anything that they could get. They'd bring stuff back from Japan for her. Candy bars. That was one of the many of those candy bars. She never ever knew what candy bars were. Such a sweet little thing. She reminded me of this little girl over here. That's why I got to think about those little kids like that. To think that they get hungry and don't have anything to eat. But anyway, she come around quite often, and she always went home with a bag of stuff after I got the word out. I don't know why she always come to me, but she did. It's Leff for me.
Is that what you called him then? By his last name, Lee?
He tried to teach me a little Korean, but he failed.
Looked like those kids had a liking to you.
Well, you know, a lot of people didn't pay attention to them. And I like those kids. I mean, I felt sorry for them, but I couldn't do them much good. Couldn't do them much good.
So there was Russian airplanes in Korea? I did not know that.
They had real nice airplanes, fighter jets. And they did a lot of damage.
Wow.
Lots of damage. And another thing I guess I didn't mention or didn't have any reason to here, they had what they call what did they call them? I don't know. But they come over at night with a little airplane similar to my airplane. This thing over here. A little light airplane, but they were bi-wings. They had 2 wings, 2 sets of wings. Anyway, they come over at night and drop mortar rounds over our place, where our base, where the people were stationed. And they did some damage, and if they didn't do any damage, they were morale breakers. They busted the morale for a lot of people, you know. After they dropped one or two, and they were smart enough, they would get up rather high and then shut the engine down to where it wasn't making any noise and drift over the base and drop two or three of those things and then start up again the way they'd go. But they done a little damage, not much, but a little. It kept you awake most of the night. It just something there to irritate you, you know, to bother you. And then when the new ones come out, the Sabre jet, they call them Sabres, F-86 Sabres. And they were faster, more maneuverable, and more powerful weapons. And they changed the course of the air war quite a little bit. I mean, they go to looking for them. Before they was just kind of doing their thing and turn around, come back. But these Sabre jets, they'd look for those Russian airplanes. There was the dogfighters that fought the Russian airplanes. See those newer model jets going north, and there'd be four of them. And they could only last about an hour, and they'd be coming back. And if four of them come back, that was fine, but sometimes only two or three come back. So you know what happened to them? I don't know. We didn't know either. There was frozen bodies come in there. You know, they in the wintertime it was pretty darn chilly there, and they'd freeze overnight. They didn't find them till the next day sometime. And they warmed them up and they loaded them on. I helped load a few of them, and I didn't like that at all, but I had something else to do, so I went and done it. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. You don't know whether when they're coming, they just show up. They try to hit as many areas as they could. They come to our place, and we enjoyed them. Everybody enjoyed them.
Who was it that was coming that you?
Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney.
Well, he was so funny. He was a little guy, and he had two of the best looking women, and he was all the time rubbing up against those women, you know. Of course, that was part of the show. And he just had a fine show. The other show didn't amount to all that much, but Mickey Rooney was funny.
I take it you didn't see Marilyn Monroe?
No. Right to, I guess. We earned it.
Yeah.
We earned it.
What can you tell me? You got a lot of pictures of airplanes. Were you always fascinated with the planes? Because when you came back, you learned to fly a plane.
Yeah. That was my time for myself. Get in that airplane and just go wherever I wanted to go.
Nice.
I had a highway patrolman one time. We was hunting coyotes, and this coyote crossed the interstate a couple times, and I crossed the interstate about 4 times, and he seen me crossing the interstate, and he knew where I was from, so he went up to the hangar and he sat and waited till I come back. And he says, he introduced himself, and then I told him who I was. And he says, "Hey, you're flying kind of low," and I said, "Well, I got a piece of paper here. If you have to show you if you want to see it to fly low." And no, he says, if you got it, that's all right. And he says, how come you cross the highway so many times? I says, you know, that's the only way I could get to the other side of it. He laughed and he says, I gotta get out of here. They were pretty good people.
Yeah. You haven't talked about your best friend Cappy yet.
Cappy? No, see, I couldn't say enough about Cappy. He was my best friend.